Let's just admit it, sublimation is hard and it is special. Let's talk about it. Hello everyone and welcome to Crafting with Delonda. It's me again, Delonda, and thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to get into some of the reasons why sublimation is hard. It is not easy to get started, and we are going to talk about it, and I'm going to share my tips and tricks with you along the way. At the end of this video, if you find it helpful, please consider liking the video, subscribing to my channel, and turning on the bell for notifications because I do upload new content every single week. Now, without further ado, let's get started. One reason why sublimation is hard is because you have to use the right paper. Let's talk about that. Now, as with anything, there are multiple brands of sublimation paper. My favorite is the A-Sub 125 gram sublimation paper. The G stands for grams per square, and the heavier or the higher the number you have right here, the more ink the paper will absorb. So this is just one option. StarCraft makes a brand of sublimation paper. HTV Ront makes a brand of sublimation paper. This one is 105 grams. The StarCraft one is 125 grams. Hippo makes a brand of sublimation paper. This one is also 125 grams. Here is A-Sub sublimation paper in 120 grams. This one is 8.5 by 14. Typically, I use this when I'm sublimating tumblers and hard substrates. I don't really use this on fabrics, okay? Here is A-Sub 125 grams in the 11 by 17. I actually have every size. They have 125 grams in the 13 by 19. And they also have 105 grams in the 13 by 19. But sublimation paper, like I said, it comes in just about any brand you can think of when you think about sublimation. This is something that you will find your favorite over time, and you will not be limited to, I just have to use this one. You'll find your favorite and you'll typically stick to that. The one that I've just stuck with is A-Sub. I've had excellent results with this one, and I really only use the other brands if I run out of this and I'm in a pinch. But this is my preferred sublimation paper. Okay, let's move on and talk about the next thing, which is using the right ink. This printer right here is my Epson EcoTank 15,000, and it actually came with ink. It came with ink that looked just like this. And as you can see, all of the ink is still in this box, because when you purchase a printer like an EcoTank, and you are deciding that you want to convert it to use sublimation ink, you cannot use the ink that comes with the printer. So as soon as I took the ink out of the box, I had to get sublimation ink because this is inkjet ink. Let me show you what I mean by sublimation ink. Now, unlike paper where you can try out different brands and see which one you like, ink doesn't really work that way. So the first ink that I tried is Hippo sublimation ink, and I've never tried any other brand, and I don't intend to. So hopefully they stay in business for as long as I am doing sublimation printing. But with the Hippo ink, it comes in two different ways. You can get it in bottles that look like this. And these are the bottles that require those special syringes. You don't want bottles like this. These are actually a no-no. You would use these if you were using a workforce printer, and we're not even going to dabble into that. We're not talking about these kind of bottles. The bottles that you want have a cap that looks like this. The reason why is because when my red ink or my magenta runs out and I'm ready to refill it, all I have to do is open this printer and pour the ink in, and I don't have to worry about the ink spilling or splattering everywhere. Whereas if I was using this bottle, I would have some problems with it. So whenever you're purchasing ink, whatever brand you buy, you want to get the caps that look like this. As a matter of fact, if I were to flip this bottle over, you see nothing is pouring out. That's because this ink doesn't start to pour out until it's attached to the cap, to the top of the cartridge here in the eco tank, or to the top of the tank in the eco tank. So these are the kind of caps you want to have, okay? Since we're on the subject of printers, let's talk about drivers, because not only do you have to have the right ink, you also have to download the right drivers for your software. Let's talk about it. I'm on the Epson website, and all I did was go to epson.com/USA. Now, with the printer that I have, one of my printers is an Epson EcoTank 2760. So if I was ready to download the drivers for that, I would go to the search option, and for right here where it says I'm looking for, I would type in the number and hit enter. And then when my printer comes up, this is the printer that I have, and I would click support. And once the option comes up, I would look for the drivers to match the operating system that I have. So if I was using a Mac operating system, Mac operating system 14 or Mac operating system 13, which are the two I do not have, I would actually be looking at the Windows operating system. Now right here, it says, there are no files available for the detected operating system. The reason why it says that is because I've already downloaded the drivers that are required for my printer. If I had not downloaded the drivers, I would have an option right here, okay, to choose from, but I don't need to because all of the drivers have already been downloaded. If you've never downloaded drivers for your printer, you will have options and it'll tell you what they suggest you download. Okay, so you'll need to do that in order to get your printers to have the right colors and to work properly if you have converted an EcoTank for sublimation. Now, let me show you what my printer settings look like so that if you want to set yours up the exact same way that I have mine set up, you can do that. If I were to insert a picture, let's go to stock images. I'll just choose any image. I just want to show you what my printer options look like. Let's go with this right here. I'll click insert and get that inserted. So let's just say I wanted this printed. I'm going to go to file and print, and I would select the Epson EcoTank 2760 series. I will go to my printer properties, and I already have a preset. So my sublimation preset with the mirror on, my document size is 8.5 by 11. The orientation is on portrait. The paper type that I keep mine saved on is premium presentation paper matte. The quality is high. I keep it on color. Two-sided printing is off. Multi-page is off. There one copy. I do keep print preview selected. If we go to more options, I have the same document size, color correction, I have it on custom. Let's look at the advanced option. My color controls are set to Adobe RGB with a gamma of 2.2. I did not make any adjustments right here. And this setting is saved on my computer. Okay, so whenever I get ready to print, I can just go to that preset. All right, I don't have any other options right here. Rotate is not selected, and high speed is also not selected. Okay, so if I were to click print, and let's just say I wanted to go for it, I would not get a printed image. I would actually get a print preview. Okay. So hopefully that helps. Let's move on to the next subject. Now this says heat press when really it should say heat source. There are two things you really need to know. One, you cannot use a household iron for sublimation. Two, I always suggest getting the biggest heat press you can afford. Now, when I started my sublimation journey, I actually started with a Cricut 9x9 Easy Press. And an easy press is really not considered as a heat press. It's a heat source. It's much like an iron. You will get good, even solid heat from this. But remember, whenever you're pressing something for sublimation, you might have to use a lot of pressure. And with an easy press, all of the pressure comes from you. So after I had an easy press for a while, I moved on to a 15x15 swing away. Then I moved to a 15x15 clamshell. I really do have a lot of heat presses. As a matter of fact, I even have a reel on Instagram about these are my ladies. I'll make sure to leave a link below so you can check that out. With sublimation, you are going to need a heat source that will get at least, I would say, a minimum of 385 degrees. Now, you might hear conflicting information, but that part right there is a matter of my personal opinion. I do think 385 degrees is a fair starting point for a suitable heat source. If you don't have access to funds right now to get a heat press, but you have everything else, please know you can also start with a mini press. I have demonstrated that you can use a mini press. Now you're going to be pressing and you're going to have to move it around, but it can be done. Okay. So that's what you need to know about heat presses. Let's move on and talk about the next. Do you love wearing white? See how I crossed off like and I added love? Because with sublimation, it was intended for white or light fabric. Let's look at a few. Now, when I am sublimating on shirts, I really like to use Cricut brand shirts. I think the quality of them is good. The shirt is thick and you really can't see through it, so I like that. These are some examples. What you'll notice is that the ink is actually in the fabric. It's not on there, it's in there. So even though these shirts have been washed a lot of times, the ink is not going anywhere. Okay, so that's one example. Here's another example. Here's photos to letters that I did with my family. And this is sublimation. You can see the ink is in the fibers of the fabric. This is another shirt that I sublimated. I got this image from Creative Fabrica. This right here is an example of layered infusible ink, because remember, infusible ink is sublimation ink. Okay, so remember, because sublimation is intended to be used with white or light fabric, the ink looks vibrant, is gorgeous on these white polyester shirts. These are 95% polyester, okay? So now let's move on to the next subject. If your answer to do you love wearing white is no, then you're wondering about hacks. Like, which hack should I try? Which hack is the most successful? Hacks are intended to be used for people who want to use sublimation ink and get vibrant colors, and they don't like wearing white. Now, if you've been following me for any length of time, you know I typically do not wear white. I've done a lot of hacks on dark colors. So this is an example of a hack. This was the Sublimation DTF hack. I think I did this over a year ago now. This is probably the highest viewed tutorial on my channel. It has over 300,000 views. I did this with sublimation ink and DTF film, and that's why it's a hack. So even though it's intended to be used with fabric that's not white, it's still not true sublimation and it's not true DTF, which makes this an example of a hack. So you can see the ink is on there. It's not in there. What does this feel like? I would say you can feel it, but it doesn't feel like vinyl. I really can't explain what it feels like, but you can see what this looks like. This right here is also an example of a hack. This is also an example of a hack This, I did this live. This is white heat transfer vinyl followed by a layer of clear sublimation HTV followed by a sublimated image. So this is actually 3 layers, and what you will know is that the image is on top of the shirt, kind of like a photo transfer or like a sticker. This is not in the fabric, it's on the fabric. So you can hear that. And this is an example of a hack. This is also an example of a hack. This is sublimation on top of glitter vinyl. Now on the bottom, I have a layer of glitter HTV. And on the top, I have the sublimated image. Okay, so you can see the glitter shining through. So my family is right there in the picture. The image is vibrant. It's on the fabric. So this is a hack. The image is on the fabric, not in the fabric. This is an example of a hack. This is the Sublimation DTF hack on dark fabric. So with this, I have a layer of white HTV, and then I added the sublimation ink and the DTF film on top of that. And so that is what this is. You can see it's very stiff. This has been washed a lot of times. But I mean, I was able to do it, but it's still considered as a hack. Last but not least, this is infusible ink on top of glitter vinyl. So I layered 3 colors of infusible ink and I just put it on top of white glitter HTV. And this is the result. And once again, this is a hack. And so you might be wondering, well, which hack should I try? That will be a matter of personal preference, whichever one you think you will be the most successful with. I will say that of all the hacks I've tried, the one that people have the problem with the most is the Sublimation DTF hack. And that's because it's kind of hard to get the film to go through the printer, because remember that film is not really intended to go through that printer. It's intended for a DTF printer. Okay, so let's move on to our next subject. Now with sublimation, you do have to have special blanks, but I suggest starting with just some pre-cut polyester fabric. I purchased this from Walmart and it was just $2. It's 100% polyester. That way I can practice on this and I'm not messing up any blanks. The blanks that I prefer to use are Cricut blanks. However, you can get polyester blanks at just about anywhere. I purchased these from Dollar Tree. As you can see, they are 100% polyester. These are also good to test on if you are just not sure if your colors are right and you don't want to waste any blanks. These are polyester like lanyards. I purchased these from Five Below. These are just 100% polyester. Oh no, these are 98% polyester socks. This bag right here is 100% polyester. I purchased this from Michael's. These are Cricut coasters. You can get these really from Amazon, anywhere, Michael's, Hobby Lobby. This is a Cricut blank. These are Cricut cosmetic bags. And you see they say infusible ink because remember, infusible ink is sublimation ink. So anything that you can use that is 100% polyester, if you're thinking about, well, I'm not ready for sublimation, you can start with infusible ink. This is also a Cricut tote bag. Here's a Cricut shirt. All of these will be considered as special blanks. These are sublimation keychains, okay? So anything that is white and it has the sublimation coating on it, you can use it for sublimation. These are just some examples. Do you really want to talk about the money? Let's look at it. Let's talk about it. In order to get started, it's going to take some money. So the Sublimation 7 is just the list of 7 essential things you need. Let's look at it. You're going to need a printer. The printer that I have is $354. You're going to need ink. The ink that I use right now on Amazon is $36.99. You're going to need paper. The paper that I use currently is $19.95. You are going to need a heat source. Remember, I said you can start with the Cricut Easy Press. Right now, I saw it on Amazon for $129. You are going to need butcher paper. I found a cheap pack of butcher paper on Amazon for $13.97. You are going to need heat-resistant tape. I love the Cricut heat-resistant tape. I found some on Amazon for $4.19. And you will need substrates or blanks. And let's just say you want to start with something easy. You want to start with the Cricut coasters. And I found these on Amazon for $9.89. And if we were to add all of those things together, if we added the $19.95 for the paper, plus the $36.99 for the ink, plus the $354 for the printer, that's the printer I have, plus the Cricut Easy Press for $129, plus the Cricut Heat Resistant Tape for $419, the coasters for $9.89, and the butcher paper for $13.97. Our grand total just today without tax would be $567.99, okay? And that is just if you went with these exact items. Now, of course, you can find a cheaper printer. You probably could find cheaper ink. You will definitely find cheaper paper. But if you were going with these exact same things that I have right here in front of you today, this will be the price without tax. So there is going to be some money that comes with the sublimation startup. Okay, let's move on to the next subject. Another reason why sublimation is so hard is because there's just so much information, right? I heard so-and-so say, but I heard such and such say. We are on information overload. And I even took the time to Google to see just how many YouTube channels there are currently. And I found, according to Google, there are 114 million YouTube channels. That means that you might hear or see conflicting information. So my piece of advice about that is go with the information or the resource that you find the most reliable. Whoever is your go-to person for crafts, if they've shared information regarding heat settings or heat presses or blanks or ink, go with the source you have trusted the most. And if you can't find anything that you are dead set on, this is the truth, this is the right way, you might have to test it for yourself, and that will give you conclusive evidence and information, okay? So now let's move on to the next subject. Last but not least, sublimation might be hard because it seems like everybody is doing it. And that's just not true. Number one, and number two, and number 10, you don't know everybody. And everybody doesn't know you. And just because it may look like everyone is doing it, that's just not true. And even if they are, even if you're in a Facebook group and it looks like everyone is doing sublimation except you, so what? Be different. Start with infusible ink until you get your footing, until you have the money, until the time is right. Don't be in a rush because of what it seems like everyone else is doing, okay? Now, hopefully you have found these tips helpful. If you have, please consider liking the video, subscribing to my channel, and turning on the bell for notifications because I do upload new content every single week. Don't forget to check out my whole infusible ink playlist. I will make sure it is linked below this video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thanks for watching. Bye.